It's day 120 of our Bible reading plan, and we're reading Numbers chapter 31, Hosea chapter 9, Hosea chapter 10, Matthew chapter 10, verse 34 to verse 42, Romans chapter 8, verse 12 to verse 17, and Psalms chapter 119, verse 25 to verse 48. We're reading from the Berean Standard Bible. Numbers chapter 31. And the Lord said to Moses, take vengeance on the Midianites for the Israelites. After that, you will be gathered to your people. So Moses told the people, arm some of your men for war, that they may go against the Midianites and execute the Lord's vengeance on them. Send into battle 1,000 men from each tribe of Israel. So 1,000 men were recruited from each tribe of Israel, 12,000 armed for war. And Moses sent the 1,000 from each tribe into battle, along with Phinehas, son of Eleazar the priest, who took with him the vessels of the sanctuary and the trumpets for signaling. Then they waged war against Midian as the Lord had commanded Moses, and they killed every male. Among the slain were Hevi, Rechem, Zor, Hor, and Reba, the 5 kings of Midian. They also killed Balaam, son of Beor, with the sword. The Israelites captured the Midianite women and their children, and they plundered all their herds, flocks, and goods. Then they burned all the cities where the Midianites had lived, as well as all their encampments, and carried away all the plunder and spoils, both people and animals. They brought the captives, spoils, and plunder to Moses, to Eleazar the priest, and to the congregation of Israel at the camp on the plains of Moab by the Jordan across from Jericho. And Moses, Eleazar the priest, and all the leaders of the congregation went to meet them outside the camp. But Moses was angry with the officers of the army, the commanders of thousands and commanders of hundreds who were returning from the battle. Have you spared all the women? He asked them. Look, these women caused the sons of Israel through the counsel of Balaam to turn unfaithfully against the Lord at Peor, so that the plague struck the congregation of the Lord. So now kill all the boys, as well as every woman who has had relations with a man, but spare for yourselves every girl who has never had relations with a man. All of you who have killed a person or touched the dead are to remain outside the camp for 7 days. On the third day and the seventh day, you are to purify both yourselves and your captives, and purify every garment and leather good, everything made of goat hair, and every article of wood. Then Eleazar the priest said to the soldiers who had gone into battle, this is the statute of the law which the Lord has commanded Moses. Only the gold, silver, bronze, iron, tin, and lead, everything that can withstand the fire, must be put through the fire, and it will be clean, but it must still be purified with the water of purification, and everything that cannot withstand the fire must pass through the water. On the seventh day you are to wash your clothes, and you will be clean. After that you may enter the camp. The Lord said to Moses, you and Eleazar the priest and the family heads of the congregation are to take account of what was captured, both of man and beast. Then divide the captives between the troops who went out to battle and the rest of the congregation. Set aside a tribute for the Lord from what belongs to the soldiers who went into battle, one out of every 500, whether persons, cattle, donkeys, or sheep. Take it from their house and give it to Eleazar the priest as an offering to the Lord. From the Israelites' house, take one out of every 50, whether persons, cattle, donkeys, sheep, or other animals, and give them to the Levites who keep charge of the tabernacle of the Lord. So Moses and Eleazar the priest did as the Lord had commanded Moses, and this plunder remained from the spoils the soldiers had taken: 675,000 sheep, 72,000 cattle, 61,000 donkeys, and 32,000 women who had not slept with a man. This was the half portion for those who had gone to war: 337,500 sheep, including a tribute to the Lord of 675, 36,000 cattle, including a tribute to the Lord of 72, 30,500 donkeys, including a tribute to the Lord of 61, and 16,000 people, including a tribute to the Lord of 32. Moses gave the tribute to Eleazar the priest as an offering for the Lord, as the Lord had commanded Moses. For the Israelites' half, which Moses had set apart from the men who had gone to war, this half belonged to the congregation: 337,500 sheep, 36,000 cattle, 30,500 donkeys, and 16,000 people. From the Israelites' half, Moses took one out of every 50 persons and animals and gave them to the Levites, who kept charge of the tabernacle of the Lord, as the Lord had commanded him. Then the officers who were over the units of the army, the commanders of thousands and of hundreds, approached Moses and said, "Your servants have counted the soldiers under our command, and not one of ours is missing. So we have brought to the Lord an offering of the gold articles each man acquired, armlets, bracelets, rings, earrings, and necklaces, to make atonement for ourselves before the Lord." So Moses and Eleazar the priest received from them all the articles made out of gold, all the gold that the commanders of thousands and of hundreds presented as an offering to the Lord weighed 16,750 shekels. Each of the soldiers had taken plunder for himself. And Moses and Eleazar the priest received the gold from the commanders of thousands and of hundreds and brought it into the tent of meeting as a memorial for the Israelites before the Lord. Now we're reading Hosea chapter 9. Do not rejoice, O Israel, with exultation like the nations, for you have played the harlot against your God. You have made love for hire on every threshing floor. The threshing floor and winepress will not feed them, and the new wine will fail them. They will not remain in the land of the Lord. Ephraim will return to Egypt and eat unclean food in Assyria. They will not pour out wine offerings to the Lord, and their sacrifices will not please him, but will be to them like the bread of mourners. All who eat will be defiled, for their bread will be for themselves. It will not enter the house of the Lord. What will you do on the appointed day, on the day of the Lord's feast? For even if they flee destruction, Egypt will gather them, and Memphis will bury them. Their precious silver will be taken over by thistles, and thorns will overrun their tents. The days of punishment have come, the days of retribution have arrived. Let Israel know it. The prophet is called a fool, and the inspired man insane, because of the greatness of your iniquity and hostility. The prophet is Ephraim's watchman, along with my God. Yet the snare of the fowler lies on all his paths. Hostility is in the house of his God. They have deeply corrupted themselves, as in the days of Gibeah. He will remember their guilt, he will punish their sins. I found Israel like grapes in the wilderness. I saw your fathers as the first fruits of the fig tree in its first season, but they went to Baal Peor and consecrated themselves to shame. So they became as detestable as the thing they loved. Ephraim's glory will fly away like a bird, with no birth, no pregnancy, and no conception. Even if they raise their children, I will bereave them of each one. Yes, woe be to them when I turn away from them. I have seen Ephraim, like Tyre, planted in a meadow, but Ephraim will bring out his children for slaughter. Give them, O Lord, what will you give? Give them wombs that miscarry and breasts that dry up. All their evil appears at Gilgal, for there I hated them. I will drive them from my house for the wickedness of their deeds. I will no longer love them. All their leaders are rebellious. Ephraim is struck down, their root is withered. They cannot bear fruit. Even if they bear children, I will slay the darlings of their wombs. My God will reject them because they have not obeyed him, and they shall be wanderers among the nations. Hosea chapter 10 now. Israel was a luxuriant vine, yielding fruit for himself. The more his fruit increased, the more he increased the altars. The better his land produced, the better he made the sacred pillars. Their hearts are devious. Now they must bear their guilt. The Lord will break down their altars and demolish their sacred pillars. Surely now they will say, we have no king, for we do not revere the Lord. What can a king do for us? They speak mere words with false oaths, they make covenants. So judgment springs up like poisonous weeds in the furrows of a field. The people of Samaria will fear for the calf of Beth Haven. Indeed, its people will mourn with its idolatrous priests, those who rejoiced in its glory, for it has been taken from them into exile. Yes, it will be carried to Assyria as tribute to the great king. Ephraim will be seized with shame. Israel will be ashamed of its wooden idols. Samaria will be carried off with her king. Like a twig on the surface of the water, the high places of Avon will be destroyed. It is the sin of Israel. Thorns and thistles will overgrow their altars. Then they will say to the mountains, cover us, and to the hills, fall on us. Since the days of Gibeah you have sinned, O Israel, and there you have remained. Did not the battle in Gibeah overtake the sons of iniquity? I will chasten them when I please. Nations will be gathered against them to put them in bondage for their double transgression. Ephraim is a well-trained heifer that loves to thresh, but I will place a yoke on her fair neck. I will harness Ephraim, Judah will plow, and Jacob will break the hard ground. Sow for yourselves righteousness and reap the fruit of loving devotion. Break up your unplowed ground, for it is time to seek the Lord until he comes and sends righteousness upon you like rain. You have plowed wickedness and reaped injustice. You have eaten the fruit of lies because you have trusted in your own way and in the multitude of your mighty men. The roar of battle will rise against your people so that all your fortresses will be demolished as Shalman devastated Beth Habel in the day of battle, when mothers were dashed to pieces along with their children. Thus it will be done to you, O Bethel, because of your great wickedness. When the day dawns, the king of Israel will be utterly cut off. Now we're reading Matthew chapter 10, verse 34 to verse 42. Do not assume that I have come to bring peace to the earth. I have not come to bring peace, but a sword. For I have come to turn a man against his father, a daughter against her mother, a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. A man's enemies will be the members of his own household. Anyone who loves his father or mother more than me is not worthy of me. Anyone who loves his son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me. And anyone who does not take up his cross and follow me is not worthy of me. Whoever finds his life will lose it, and whoever loses his life for my sake will find it. He who receives you receives me, and he who receives me receives the one who sent me. Whoever receives a prophet because he is a prophet will receive a prophet's reward. And whoever receives a righteous man because he is a righteous man will receive a righteous man's reward. And if anyone gives even a cup of cold water to one of these little ones because he is my disciple, truly I tell you, he will never lose his reward. Our next reading is Romans chapter 8, verse 12 to verse 17. Therefore, brothers, we have an obligation, but it is not to the flesh to live according to it. For if you live according to the flesh, you will die. But if by the Spirit you put to death the deeds of the body, you will live. For all who are led by the Spirit of God are sons of God. For you did not receive a spirit of slavery that returns you to fear, but you received the spirit of sonship, by whom we cry, Abba, Father. The Spirit Himself testifies with our spirit that we are God's children. And if we are children, then we are heirs, heirs of God and co-heirs with Christ, if indeed we suffer with Him, so that we may also be glorified with Him. We're reading the last passage for today, and that is the book of Psalms, chapter 119, verse 25 to verse 48. My soul cleaves to the dust. Revive me according to your word. I recounted my ways, and you answered me. Teach me your statutes. Make clear to me the way of your precepts, then I will meditate on your wonders. My soul melts with sorrow. Strengthen me according to your word. Remove me from the path of deceit and graciously grant me your law. I have chosen the way of truth. I have set your ordinances before me. I cling to your testimonies, O Lord. Let me not be put to shame. I run in the path of your commandments, for you will enlarge my heart. Teach me, O Lord, the way of your statutes, and I will keep them to the end. Give me understanding that I may obey your law and follow it with all my heart. Direct me in the path of your commandments, for there I find delight. Turn my heart to your testimonies and not to covetous gain. Turn my eyes away from worthless things. Revive me with your word. Establish your word to your servants to produce reverence for you. Turn away the disgrace I dread, for your judgments are good. How I long for your precepts. Revive me in your righteousness. May your loving devotion come to me, O Lord, your salvation according to your promise. Then I can answer him who taunts, for I trust in your word. Never take your word of truth from my mouth, for I hope in your judgments. I will always obey your law forever and ever, and I will walk in freedom, for I have sought your precepts. I will speak of your testimonies before kings, and I will not be ashamed. I delight in your commandments because I love them. I lift up my hands to your commandments, which I love, and I meditate on your statutes. May the Lord bless the reading and hearing of his word, and may the word fall on good ground in our hearts, bringing forth fruits in 30 folds, 60 folds, and 100 folds. In Jesus' name, amen.